Thank you for inviting me. I'm honored to have this opportunity to speak to you. After a whole month of musing through my own personal and professional experiences, I will use personal stories, interchanging with reflections, to discuss the role overseas Taiwanese can play at this COVID-19 pandemic time. Let's first set the context of this talk. You all are now watching this recorded talk because we are still in COVID-19 pandemic. By now, we're 7.5 months in after Zhang Wenliang first reported SARS-like pneumonia cases to his local CDC on December 27, 2019. 7.5 months after, the total number of deaths has exceeded the highest recorded deaths per year due to seasonal flu. As you all know, Taiwan was one of the exemplar countries in successfully mitigating COVID-19, when the world now has more than nearly 20 million confirmed cases and resulting in more than 730,000 deaths due to COVID. On August 6th, the US CDC listed Taiwan as the pandemic's safest place in the world. The US Health and Human Service Secretary, Alex Azar, attributed Taiwan COVID-19 pandemic control success to the shared values of population health officers in democratic systems, being transparent, being inclusive, and following the rules of people. So in my talk today, there are 4 key messages I would like to convey, and later on I will use my personal stories to emphasize these key messages. Messages 1, it is important to have a democratic system where people-elected government knows its critical obligation is to be responsible, accountable to its people. In pandemic time, the government needs to provide clear, frank, and consistent communication to its people and can then help mitigate the spread of the disease. Second message, high foundational literacy level of the citizens enabled them to learn about the virus and the disease, and then can trust the information shared by its government and to act responsibly in following preventive governmental directives. Message 3, a sound public healthcare system helps to enable a 21st century digital pandemic mitigating exemplar. With such a system are the investment in producing PPE so that PPE supply did not get in the way to mitigate the pandemic. COVID-19 testing of the suspected citizens can be done promptly without cost of the people. Quarantining the suspected individuals and isolating the confirmed cases require the government's willingness to make that policy and its people willing to cooperate. A true leader will take responsibility to lead, and true freedom comes with responsibility. Caring for others is everyone's responsibility. So let me share a little bit about my personal journey. I was born in Kaohsiung. From elementary school to high school was spent in Tainan. I moved to Taichung for Donghai University to study physics and worked for 2 years after receiving my BSc. I left Taiwan for Los Angeles to study. After 5 years of graduate studies, I got a master's in science education and a PhD in education, both are from USC. During my graduate studies, I also worked at USC as a research assistant and later on a research assistant professor. I have to confess that this initial period of my life as a Taiwanese was quite blurry to me. I didn't know what role I should play as a Taiwanese until I was in graduate school. You may wonder why this is the case. Up until then, I didn't think too much about this land I was born on and my relation to it until I first encountered Chinese graduate students in the US who were competing with my friend for a scholarship. My friend was one of the smartest men I have ever met, but his scores and undergraduate university were just like me. Not the best in Taiwan. Growing up in a democratic, free society, I didn't have to be in the best school and to get the best mark to leave Taiwan for graduate study. I didn't realize at that time how lucky I was to have choices to study what I want. My graduate school friends and professors showed me that to leave the oppressive China for graduate studies overseas in late 1980s and early 1990s, being competitive academically is a prerequisite criterion. In reflection, I got the RA position, perhaps because at the time my American professor had the impression that Chinese are smart and hardworking and usually can tell Taiwanese from Chinese. This professor, who hired me as an RA, often asked me about Taiwan and Taiwan's education system. It is common that people think that once you have come through the system, you must know about the system. But I knew that I didn't know much about Taiwan. I felt obligated to study and understand Taiwan's education structure and system so that I can share my thoughts with this professor. Thanks to this curious professor, I really got to understand some aspects of Taiwanese education. Because of this consistent sharing and discussion, I also become more and more proud of being a Taiwanese. At that time, the postmodern feminist anti were becoming the dominant worldview in social sciences. Many scholars attempt to introspectively understand who they are so that they can become more honest in their writing. I felt that I didn't have to struggle too much to know what my identity was due to my 3 years of serious research of Taiwanese education. I was comfortable and quite proud of my Taiwanese identity. Since the 1980 OECD international comparative studies have shown that Taiwan was one of the top achieving math and science education countries. In my own 5 years of international comparative study experience, I also show the world how Taiwan's math and science education achievement in K-12 really can help American and Canadians to reflect on their own education system. The consistencies of Taiwanese math and science education level of basic math and science knowledge really matters in a world like today. I understand then how my education in Taiwan has helped prepare a very solid foundation for me to build the academic landscape that I now have. I also understand basic math and science knowledge for all is important for a country to enhance democracy in the 21st century. I left Michigan for Canada to take a professorate position at the University of Calgary. At that time, my faculty had a Western China project funded by CIDA and Chinese government. After they have started their teacher preparation work in Xinjiang, Ningxia, Xizang, for a few times, I was asked to join the research meeting. I was briefed with their process and progresses. Eventually, learn a bit about the goal of the project, which is to teach teachers how to teach students to be critical and to be inquisitive. I said to my colleagues, how would you know that what you intended to teach the teachers were interpreted correctly by the interpreters? Is that what Communist China wants from their residents of the Western provinces? More than 15 years later, I often wonder if my colleagues have successfully transformed students there to be critical thinkers. If that's the case, I'm glad the 21st century education approach does work. But I'm sad that in the 21st century, there are still authoritarian regimes that are devoted to silencing people's voice. Taiwanese in early February was reported as the number one healthcare in the world. To prepare for this talk, here's the result. Surveys is based on people's voluntary input. In addition to Taiwanese world-class healthcare system, Taiwanese scientists in March have demonstrated the ability to make one of the COVID-19 treatment drugs, remdesivir, and at least 3 biotech companies in Taiwan have now demonstrated ability in producing higher efficacy COVID-19 vaccines. In 2010, I came to UBC to become an education research professor in the Faculty of Dentistry. My role is to conduct and mentor the professors how to perform education research. There has been increasing distrust in BC health today toward its policy on face masks. I often wonder if BC authorities will quickly address some of the concerns that especially parents of school-age students have toward face masks. These nearly 3 decades of life in North America have been interesting and educational. Although Taiwan has experienced many hardships in its history and journey to become a sound democratic country, its government and people all have come through due to incredible resilience. COVID-19 pandemic to Taiwan is a blessing in disguise. I am a proud Taiwanese and will continue to advocate for Taiwan being recognized as an equal contributor at the world stage. I hope you all join me in this endeavor. Be engaged. These are the people that I would like to acknowledge. In conclusion, being engaged is one important lesson that I learned after becoming an American. In a fast-paced, democratic, value-centered world, sitting at a corner and just focusing quietly on your own thing is not contributing to society. If we want to be a part of the group at the table where critical things are happening, we must participate actively, learn about Taiwan more broadly, and when you have the chance to speak, let the world know about Taiwan's achievement. Only when we overseas Taiwanese become vocal and become engaged in the countries where we immigrate, can the world begin to understand that what a difference Taiwan can make in the world. I thank you for listening to this talk. I hope more conversation would emerge after you listening to this talk. Thank you very much.